Welcome to the Connexicor Network, and
Thank you.
this is going to be a fairly simple onboarding session. We're just going to go through a few items and check this off the list. So the topics that we're going to cover today are Dropbox. We use Dropbox as a regular repository as far as client data and information, as well as your own personal data. We'll talk about that in a minute. Compensation. We're going to talk a little bit about rules of engagement, receiving, executing, and closing out flight missions, as well as additional incentives. What we're trying to do with our pilots is give them other avenues for revenue over and above just flying missions. At the end of the day, if flying is all you want to do, then that's great. We love that. But if you're looking for other areas of the business where you may want to participate with additional incentives, we open that up to you.
Okay.
Then we're going to talk about Connexicor Cloud. Connexicor Cloud is our proprietary asset management and inspection portal. It is included in our website, and we use it for just about every customer to bring their assets into the portal and do some inspection analysis and kind of a central area where we can keep things organized. We offer Connexicor Cloud not only to our clients, but we offer it to our pilot network as well if you choose to use it for your own personal business. We'll talk about that. And then lastly, we'll summarize things at the end with some questions from you. Okay, Dropbox. So once we're done with this onboarding session and we let operations know that you're fully onboarded with regards to this onboarding session, you'll get an email from operations, and inside that email is going to be a Dropbox invitation. Once you accept it, you'll see your name. It'll be a private folder, so the only people that are visible to this folder are myself, you, and our Director of Operations. And in there, you'll have a series of subfolders, a client folder, which is where all client data will be put. So as we start to accumulate missions and client names, you'll have separate folders in there where you'll populate all that information. There'll be a compensation folder, a documents folder, a template folder, and a template folder will hold all the standardized templates that we provide our pilots to make their job a little easier, as well as a brochure or two that will populate in there that's from Connexicor.
That's like the shot list kind of stuff?
Exactly.
Okay.
So our pilot compensation is net 15 days from the mission closeout. So once you close out a mission, you QA your data, you upload it to the client folder and or Connexicor Cloud. You shoot us an email, let us know it's ready. We review it real quick. We get that information over to the client. And from that point on, the mission's completed and you're paid within our accounting system within 19 days. 15 days. Typically, I like to get that out a little sooner, but we like to say 15 days to just be on the benchmark side of the house.
Right, okay, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about rules of engagement. So the first bullet is revolving around insurance. So we prefer if our pilots have their own insurance, but we have a corporate policy of $5 million that covers our fleet, and it covers limited bodily injury and property damage. But you as a pilot, as an independent contractor, you're responsible for your own hull insurance. So whatever insurance you need to protect your hulls, that's pretty much under your jurisdiction there.
I use Skywatch because I pay for it by the month.
Yes, and whatever you use is totally fine. We just like to say that the hulls are up to the pilots themselves. Then the second bullet is adhering to Connexicor standards of procedures. So in your Dropbox, you'll get an SOP guide, and this includes everything that the regular seasoned pilot would know. Accident and incident reporting, logging flights, logging information, basically keeping tabs in a journal the way you would keep tabs for your own business. We ask you to do the same thing and make sure that everything follows a procedural format. And then lastly, and this is really important, we take this very serious, when conducting a project or a single flight mission. So we call a project more than 2 flights. So if we're hired by a construction company and it's for 6 months, that's a project. If we're hired by a single entity and it's a single flight mission, that's a single flight mission. But what we ask is that as a contractor pilot, you represent yourself as a Connexicor approved pilot. Now, that's not to say that you can't communicate with the customer. We're not like some of these other drone aggregators that don't want you to say a word to the customer or even let the customer know you're on site, which I always thought was somewhat ridiculous. You're an extension of us. You're your own company. You're there to do a job that we've contracted you for, and we've worked a relationship with the client. So we ask that you courteously represent yourself and not exchange your business card or verbally exchange information relative to your own private company. And it's kind of a zero tolerance type of thing where we want to be able to trust our pilots, and we want our pilots to trust us, and we want to have them have a flexibility to be able to, operate, and they are their own companies. We know that, but we just, as a non-disclosure in the agreement, we ask that you just follow that rule.
Yeah, that's what with most of the drone service companies, they don't do that. Better View is the only one really that I've worked with that actually does that. They will, they'll let the customer know that, okay, there's going to be a Better View pilot there on site at this certain time. So when you show up, okay, yeah, you're the Better View guy.
Exactly, okay. Exactly. And that's, anybody that's been in business for a long time knows that that's the best way to get the best customer experience and the best way to make the pilot feel like he's part of a team or she's part of a team. So we'll talk more about that as well as we start to do missions. So speaking of missions, this page is about receiving missions. So when we sign a contract with a client, the pilots will receive an email correspondence from our operations team, and in order for you to be considered a mission, there's certain criteria that you need to meet. Now, not everyone's going to meet all the criteria, but the more criteria you meet, the higher probability you're going to have getting a mission. So, First and foremost is attending the initial new pilot onboarding call, which is what's occurring right now. We kind of make that mandatory just because we like to get to know you. We want you to get to know us. We want to develop that relationship on a business level as well as a personal level. Some people become very friendly with our internal team. Specific vertical industry skill set. So if on your pilot application at Connexicor, you've put that you've done some AEC construction projects where you're doing mapping, you've done some solar panel work, some cell phone tower inspections, that information is important because we start to now isolate certain pilots when we're looking for the right pilot for the right mission when we're assigning projects. Then we have technology capabilities. So certain technology capabilities will be required for certain missions. So if you're not familiar with flying automatic flights through autonomous flight software like Drone Deploy or Dautomate or whoever, then chances are you're not going to be able to do a mission to do orthomosaic mapping or contour mapping, things like that. Again, that's not a bad thing. It's just that's where your skill set is today. As well as video editing, mapping, ground control points. Drone inventory is important. Depending on what you've indicated is your inventory of drones would say to us, well, if the person's only got a DJI Mavic Spark, or excuse me, a DJI Spark, we're certainly not going to rely on this Spark to do a cell phone tower inspection, because it's a small device. It's going to get blown around. It doesn't have 360-degree obstacle avoidance, all these things. So depending on what your inventory is would really make a difference on the projects. And most DJI products and unique products are very good products. So unless it's a very specific project, you're pretty much good to go. Same thing with cameras and sensors. We may We may opt for a 20 megapixel camera versus a 12, depending on the mission. And then this next bullet is the geographic willingness to travel. So let's use Fargo, North Carolina as an example. If you filled out on your application that you're only going to travel a 50-mile radius from your home base, and you live in Fargo, North Carolina, or excuse me, North Dakota,
you're not going to get a whole lot of work. Yeah.
Exactly. It's going to minimize your opportunity to get exposure. Now, coming from Texas, if it's a very large state, obviously, so if your radius is 200 miles, then your radius is 200 miles. It's opening you up to a lot more opportunities. And as a 1099 contractor, and I get this question all the time, do you compensate for travel? No, we don't compensate for travel because you're your own business, and at the end of the year, you write travel costs off in your tax returns, and we can't double dip with the IRS, so we want to keep everything legal. Now, that's not to say if we have a unique project where you're traveling to a location outside of your home area, and we need to put you up in a hotel or something, if that's something you're willing to do. Those types of deals are one-offs, but we like to say that travel is up to the contractor, obviously. And then lastly on this list, we have Connexicor Pilot Ranking. So we have a ranking system that helps increase your odds of getting an opportunity. And what the ranking system does is it weighs out a whole bunch of different qualifications as well as customer survey scores. So if you're on a project for us, and the customer comes back and says, your pilot that did this survey for me was such a nice guy. He was very informative, very friendly, was professional, wasn't blasting music on the job site or whatever. You're going to get a star next to your name, and that increases your ranking. As well as participating in our monthly calls, writing a blog or two for us. Things like that become much higher pilot ranking, and as we start to weigh down things, the pilots that score the best are the pilots that get the projects, and we'll talk more about that.
For Droners IO, they state no. What is it? Spitting, swearing, littering, or urinating on site.
That is kind of funny. Urinating on the job site. That's funny.
Yeah.
But you're right. I do remember seeing that myself. So now let's talk about executing the mission. So once we get a contract back from the client, we decide, hey, John's going to be our pilot for this mission, or it might be multiple pilots for that matter. We'll send you an email notification saying that you've been selected for a client mission, and it's got to be completed in a time frame noted. Now, that's subject to change based on weather and a variety of things.
Right, yeah.
We're asking the pilot to give us, within 24 hours of receiving that email, either an acceptance or a decline of the mission assignment. Now, it's not a bad thing to decline the assignment because you may have prior commitments, or you may have a conflict of interest, or for whatever reason, it's not a bad thing. The only thing we ask is that you let us know within 24 hours of receiving the email saying that you've been given an opportunity.
Right, okay, yeah.
The third bullet is after the mission has been accepted by the pilot, we issue a work order. And I'll show you a copy of the work order in a second, but we'll need the work order back and signed before the flight date. And again, I'll show you that on the next slide. Then the next bullet is that the pilot is responsible to research and verify with our ops team if there are any airspace restrictions or any types of TFRs for that particular site. Now, airspace restrictions could be a variety of things. You know this as a pilot. But if we have a restriction that's kind of a generic restriction, like a 200-foot AGL max, excuse me, on the area where the job is, it's up to you to let us know, Frank, I'm flying in a 200 AGL airspace, so just letting you know that. If the tower we're flying is 250 feet, we want to make sure that we have all the right waivers and whatnot in place. If you have waivers on your own, it's good for us to know that. But we typically take care of most of that. And same thing with temporary flight restrictions, TFRs. You generally don't get a TFR until 48 hours before the TFR has actually been implemented. I.e., the president's flying into the city for a meeting. Generally, we'll get a TFR within 48 hours, which kind of locks down that airspace noted within the TFR. So it's up to the pilot to let us know these things, as well as prohibitive weather conditions. We don't want you to fly in dangerous conditions, and you don't want to fly in dangerous conditions. So if you need to reschedule because of weather, absolutely let us know. We'll let the client know, and we just push it back until it's right. After the mission is completed, we ask our pilots to, within 24 hours, to get all the necessary data into the appropriate Dropbox and or Connexicor Cloud. And we also ask you guys to QA your data. So if you're doing a flight plan that is an autonomous flight plan and you're launching from a flight pad, we don't want the data uploaded that shows the flight pad. We don't want to see the top of a tree as you're ascending to your altitude. We just want the key data that's part of the mission. This way it makes it easier for us to sort through things and get the data over to the client. And that's, pretty much standard. You would do that for your own customer as well as ours.
Yeah, that's what I've learned. So that you take a lot of pictures because you don't want to have to go out there twice.
Oh, absolutely, I agree.
And and then you just call out the ones that you don't, that are not required. That's
correct. So here is our work order. This is a sample work order. So we have a work order number. We have the customer information on the left. We have the site and site contact information on the right. We have the scheduled project start date. Of course, that's to be determined based on weather. We have project scope of work listed here. In the center, we have any special instructions that might be specific to that project. On the work order, we ask you to put your 107 license number on each work order that we assign you. And we also ask you to indicate which drones that you're going to be utilizing for the project, as well as the FAA registration number for those drones. And this is just for us to keep a good paper trail of, what's out there, what's going on. And then at the bottom of the form, we have the work order terms and conditions, which is essentially a reiteration of our non-disclosure agreement. And once you, review this, fill out your necessary spots, you sign it, you print your name on it, you email it back to us, and you're good to go. All horses are running and the project's yours, and, we started. So when the project's completed, there are two things primarily we ask. We mentioned QAing the mission and uploading the data to the appropriate location. So Dropbox is going to be our first area where you're going to get the data, just to make sure that the data is in a good, secure location. Then we may ask you to upload the data into a Connexicor Cloud login that we're going to create specific to the client. So you're the pilot flying the mission for a client. You'll get an ID to log in, excuse me, and then you'll dump the images in there as well, if it's relevant to an inspection. We also we provide our pilots with a 30-day sandbox account for Connexicor Cloud. It's really a great platform to do inspection analysis, to do annotation, and we give you the sandbox and a 30-day period to experiment in there, upload some of your own, missions in there to kind of see how it works and see how you can add some value. And then at that point, you let us know if you'd like to use Connexicor Cloud for your own personal use. Once you're in Connexicor Cloud, the interface looks something like this. Once a client is set up, you'll have a map, and we actually have an export tool from Drone Deploy, which allows you to bring an orthomosaic into the map if you want to do that. You don't have to, unless it's a requirement. But it's good to have it here to kind of get an eyeball on the site, as well as these circles indicating the drone flight. how many images were shot from the drone from these different areas. On the right side, you'll have a variety of tools that you'll be able to utilize, indicating the company name, the date, the amount of images, and when you drill down further, you can actually get your coordinates and timestamps on each one of the images that are populated in the report. And what's really nice about Connexicor Cloud is once you have your images populated, if you click on an image, it's going to actually populate up here, and you'll be able to zoom in and scroll around the image in really good detail to be able to annotate and put notes on the image, to create annotations showing some damage or severity level or areas of interest. And it really becomes a great tool to use not only for our clients, but our pilots have, a tool that they can utilize for their own personal business. And we'll talk more about that. So we talked about incentives. So as a pilot, we're operating out of a city in the United States. Chances are you're an LLC or a corporation. Chances are you have a website, and you do your own networking throughout your business. And if you're in Houston, Texas, and you happen to get a lead in Albany, New York, well, not very likely that you're going to fly out to Albany, New York to do a drone mission. So, most pilots would say to the customer or the lead, well, I'm sorry, but I don't cover that area. If our pilots throw us that lead and we close that opportunity and we actually get a contract, we'll give you a 20% commission on any leads that you can handle. We'll give you the commission on the total value of the mission. Okay. So if it's a $1,000 single day mission, you're making $200. If it's a 6 month to a year project for a construction company and it's $10,000, you're going to get $2,000. So, we try to incentivize and kind of separate ourselves a little bit from the other aggregators out there. Also, if you happen to be a good writer and you have some interesting information that maybe you want to share in a blog, if you share a blog and you want to post it on our website, you'll get full authoring rights. Your company is noted on there, and it increases your ranking, your pilot ranking. And then lastly, the pilot ranking increases again if you associate your LinkedIn page with Connexicor. So you can easily say that you're a contracted pilot with Connexicor and you manage the Dallas, Texas area, or basically say whatever you want. It's just the association of you with Connexicor on LinkedIn that increases your ranking as well.
It gives you your backlink. Okay, yeah.
Exactly. It's all about reciprocating backlinks. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, we provide for our pilots access to their own personal Connexicor Cloud account. If they want to use it just for a month, it's $39. If you want to use it for 2 months, it's 39 times 2. However often you want to use it, it comes in 30-day increments. It's very, very worth it in the long run. Once you get your sandbox account and you start playing around with it, you'll see the value. We do have a training video on our resource page on our website. So if you're interested in the sandbox account and reviewing it, I'd recommend going to the resource page on our website and just kind of viewing the training session, and you'll get a much better feel for jumping in there quickly and utilizing the portal.
Okay.
And that being said, that's kind of the overall onboarding process.